Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Mark again here, WeatherMan Plus. Now, I'm going to give you the update as far as the Invest 91E, what the latest information is, as well as a little bit touch of your tornado threat for today. Now, there's no tornado threat for tomorrow, so there's no need to upload. If you've never been here before, hello, my name is Mark. I do upload all year long, just not Friday from sundown to sundown Saturday. That's Sabbath. But I will make sure I do upload if there are lives at risk and there is no tornado warnings so far for tomorrow. Now, we had tornado threats all night long, and we had warnings still going for Virginia and South Carolina right now. So I am on Twitter. I do post these as I get them, so make sure you do follow me there if you want to get updates as far as these warnings. I'm also on Facebook. Links are in the description, so make sure you do subscribe. Hit the like, show some support for the video, as well as share this information, guys. Let people know what the information is, because there is a lot of big changes this morning. Now, remember, all the links are in the description to help save you time. So if you're in the severe weather threat, the link will be there for you. You can go see what the updates are on that, so you can go right to that and be safe. I used to live stream all the time, and I am coming back to it. I will be live streaming this hurricane season, and I will be live streaming severe weather threat soon, because I see y'all been getting a little neglected from it, and we had a lot of big events coming in. That's not right. I will never leave you for sales, and nothing is never too small for me to show support and help for you. So God bless you all. May y'all be safe, especially what happened in Michigan. God bless y'all up there. I hope y'all recovering pretty well. Now, so far, there's been no updates on the Atlantic side as far as National Hurricane Center. And on the Pacific side, it's still Invest 91E, but it's Disturbance 1. It is right now at 80% for the next 48 hours and 90% in the next 5 days. And you can see the system a little better here. It is starting to get a lot more thunderstorms, but you can still see that that trough is still putting a lot of shear. You can see all this vapor going from the west to the east, getting sheared off, as well as over here on the east side of it. All this is getting a lot of shear on this system as it goes towards Mexico. Now, a lot of the intensity has come down. Remember, this link is in the description, so you can go see any updates you do have. And it all brings it around a Cat 1 hurricane within 3 days, right as it goes towards shore for Mexico. And with the information I'm seeing, that the impact should be somewhere around high-end tropical storm impacts. Now, the H-Wharf, the hurricane model, is showing it could go right back up to a 2, even right on the edge of a major hurricane still, hit landfall, and then go right back up. And now the modeling, the CMC, the Canadian model, which was agreeing with the Euro, is starting to agree with the GFS. So as you look at the tracks for the Euro, you can see as it strengthens up right before it gets towards Mexico, weakens down in the Bay of Campeche, takes an eastward push, but strengthens up by the Yucatan once again. The GFS is still consistent that it will strengthen up to a strong hurricane before Mexico, but take that eastward push into the Western Caribbean and strengthen up and go by southern Florida and go by the Bahamas on the way out. Now, the KMA model, the Korean model, agrees that it will intensify before it goes to Mexico, take that eastward push, but then it will intensify very strong as it goes over southern Florida. And all that red is a 960 to a 979, a very strong hurricane. And you can see that here on the Korea model. As it goes towards Mexico, it strengthens up to a 977 before landfall. But instead of going into the Bay of Campeche, it rides all the way to the east in the Pacific. And then it goes over the mountains right into the Western Caribbean. Either way it takes, whether it goes over Mexico or whether it goes more like over the Central America into the Western Caribbean, all these mountains, all these high elevations is going to tear this storm apart. That's why it has to recirculate all over again. But the Korea model shows that it will strengthen right back up. Very warm waters we're still going into, like I showed you yesterday, and go right down to a 979 past the Florida Keys, get even stronger down to a 970 as it goes over southern Florida. And if you've never been here before, I always show the 0Z and the 12Z because that's the only 2 times that a bunch of meteorologists around the world puts up all these weather balloons and we get the best data. But I do have the 6Z for you, so I will show you. Now, the Euro model shows it goes all the way down to a 990 and then weakens down a little bit more to a 992 to where it's not as strong. That would bring it pretty weak going towards Mexico. Then as it goes over land, gets tore up as it goes into the Bay of Campeche, goes to the east. All models are still showing this eastward push. But Euro is stuck that it still will take that northern track and get down to a 998. Now remember, all these winds and all these rainfall precipitation will be east side loaded. The Canadian model gets it down to a 992 right before landfall, which is around the same region, all the way down to a 988 right before landfall. And most of these models has been showing that it will weaken right before landfall. The Canadian shows it will be a little period where it will strengthen for a minute, get down to a 988 hurricane from Mexico, still going to the Bay of Campeche, but instead of following what the Euro says as far as going to the center of Gulf of Mexico, now it's following what the GFS says, gets into the Western Caribbean by June 5th, and then goes over Cuba and heads its way towards Florida. Still east side loaded. And the GFS, which is always a little bit more bullish, but it takes it down to a 960 major hurricane, but still shows that weakening right before landfall and goes back to a 971 and then dissipates quickly over the Mexico mountains. Now I will get into the Bay of Campeche, take that eastward push like all these models are starting to show now, weaken down and then go over southern Florida. And that would put all the winds and all the rain still over the Bahamas as it goes out into the Atlantic. And the update with that potential second tropical cyclone is still showing now that it's still an upper level low, but the only part now is that it's further away from this one in the Caribbean, and that's going to be a little different play as far as the cold front that's coming down. So instead of bringing the cold front way down and making this a little more to the east, it's further away to where it still keeps it where it's off Florida, but it still gets close enough. And if it gets any closer, this is going to go right in between Cape Coral and right in between Tampa as well. And that would put all the impacts on the south and the eastern side for southern and southeastern Florida and the Bahamas. Now the HWRF, which is the Hurricane Weather Research and Forecasting Model. It is a good model. Sometimes it goes a little bullish as well. But I remember a couple of years ago where the HWRF was the only one that showed this intensity of this hurricane we had. All the other models said it was crazy, and the HWRF was correct. And the HWRF shows it going all the way towards Mexico and getting down to a 957. Does weaken down. All these models show it will weaken down, but it confirms it will stay a hurricane for a little while over land as it goes towards Mexico. It's still in between Salina Cruz and Acapulco. I will show you as it goes over Mexico, and then at the end of the run, it brings it to the west side of the Bay of Campeche. So you have Acapulco over here, you have Salina Cruz over here, so it's going to be a little east of Acapulco, right around here, but it's still going to be east side loaded with all this rain and all this winds. And it's going to take it straight over to Mexico, get into the Bay of Campeche, and that's when it's going to take that eastward push. When it takes that eastward push, it's going to go right over the Yucatan and curve up to the western of the Caribbean, right past Playa del Carmen. Then it's going to go over Cuba so far, according to the GFS, and go right near the Florida Keys, right by southern Florida, and it's going to affect mostly the western side of the Bahamas. And if it moves a little bit more to the west, it'll be more towards Cape Coral, and everyone else down here towards Miami, southern and southeastern Florida will be impacted as it goes across and still impact the Bahamas on the way out. So it does have a lot of people in its path. So please share this video, help people know what's going on, let them get a little prepared so you have more time. Now you can see here with the GEF tracks that all they have right now uncertainty that it will go this way, and that's about as far as you want to go. 5 days is going to be in the southern end of the Bay of Campeche. Then it's going to take another 5 days to possibly take that track to the Euro-Sean, go towards the northern end of the Yucatan Peninsula, or it will take that eastern track into the Western Caribbean. Those two tracks are still an opportunity. So as we look at all 30 members, each one of those squiggly lines into a picture graph, a lot of them show a lot of different outcomes. And by June 3rd, it will be on the Western Caribbean. Some of them show it will be over here by southern Florida, by the Bahamas. Some of them show it will be right on the western side of Florida. But the one you want to pay attention to is this one. This is your controlled member. This is your more than likely outcome out of all these ensembles. So as you keep going forward, the most likely outcome, according to the GEFS, is that it still could take a little bit of a northern track. And if you notice, that would make it not only east side, but northeast loaded with the rains, and that would be the winds as well. So no matter which way it goes, whether it goes towards the panhandle of Florida, whether it goes to the center of Florida, either way it's going to be east side loaded, and Florida will be getting these impacts. The only way that would help Florida is if it takes that southern track that we've seen right here below. But as you can see in the controlled member, that it is expected to be a little bit further north and go right over Florida as a 995, weaken down, get into the Atlantic, and go away. So as we look at the potential tracks, as we look at the GFS for Invest 91E, you can see where it takes that little eastern turn right here, but it still has some members that says it could go into the Bay of Campeche, and some of them that show it will go into the Western Caribbean. The CMC, it shows it could take a little westward push like the H-Wharf, the hurricane model shows. It also shows that it could head a little north and then go directly towards Tampa. Then the automatic shows that it not only could it go into the Bay of Campeche, just like the hurricane model shows on both of these, that it could also ride just like the Korea model shows, that it could take that eastward track and in 5 days, then head north and go straight towards Cuba into the Western Caribbean. So as we check and see what these possibilities of this strength is, as we check with the GFS, you can see as it gets a little closer towards the 29th and the 30th, that the strengthening that it does right before Mexico, your average being this black line, shows that it more likely will be around a 990, maybe a 989 hurricane as it goes on land. And then as we're starting to deal with it over here around the 1st, it should be somewhere around 1,000 millibars, a very weak system before any possible strengthening up. And the Canadian model shows something a little different. It confirms that right before it goes down towards Mexico, that it will be a weak system, a lot weaker than everything else is showing, before it finally starts really weakening down going over land. So the Canadian model shows that it has the weakest chance before Mexico, which is kind of against all the information. So as we check for possible impacts, so far according to GFS on Invest 91E, that you can see all these different lines, but as we go towards the 29th and the 30th, if you look at your average, and this is in knots, it shows that it'd be somewhere around 55 knots, 60 at the very top. So 55 knots would bring it around 65 miles per hour winds, and this is 10-meter winds. So there will be some strong winds right before it comes on land for Mexico, weaken down very greatly. Then as we go towards the 1st and 2nd, be very weak, maybe 25 knot winds. The CMC, once again, it does show something different as everything else. And this shows before it goes towards Mexico that it could be 40 knot winds, which would be about 50 miles per hour winds, and then weaken down greatly. The automatic shows that these lines could be everywhere. The H-Wharf shows the strongest, that will get it all the way up to 90 knot winds, which would be over 100 miles per hour, which would be pretty major. 105 and above is a major hurricane. Weaken down as it goes over land and then strengthen right back up. And remember, the H-Wharf is the hurricane model. But the majority of them shows that it will be right here around the 30th when it goes to Mexico, and the average would be in between 60 and 75 knot winds. So it will be some powerful winds that will be coming towards Mexico, and it will downgrade very quickly. But as we look at the possible cyclone locations with the GEFS, you see after it goes towards Mexico, it could go to the western of the Caribbean by the 1st, and then make that northward to northeastward push. But if you look at the majority of the models, the majority of them show that it will barely miss Florida. It will be on the southern end. Even though you see some coming here, these are few and far between. The cluster of them is right here, where it will pass right over Cuba and be right by in between the Florida Keys and the Western Bahamas. That is literally the average. And just to be well-rounded, the Euro, the EPS, the Ensemble Prediction System, which is the medium-long range for the Euro, their cyclone location shows not only the Western Caribbean, it shows it could go into the center of the Gulf, could go a little bit east where it goes into the Western Caribbean. Still shows like the Korea shows where it could just head north. It could head a little east and north into Florida, or it could go towards Cuba and get turned and then form back up somewhere over here by the Bahamas. So the Euro is still seeing it'll be a little bit more of a northward impact on Florida, while GFS is showing it to be a little more southern impact. So as you look at the H-Wharf, the hurricane panel, you can see as it goes up, it does get a very strong system. All the winds will be east and north, and you can see all the precipitation with it as well. But you also can see that it's about to head into some very warm waters. That's why it intensifies up right before a landfall, still going into some very warm waters. But all the precipitation will be east and northeast loaded. So if it goes a little bit east of Acapulco, you won't have no effects. But it does head a little more towards Salina Cruz with these big bands. And these big bands could create tornadoes as well. So while you're getting all these storms right here, from this coming by, it will be a stormy season as it comes across you. It will be a big glob of thunderstorms, bringing a lot of heavy precipitation for y'all. But once again, once it gets into the Bay of Campeche, it starts going towards warmer waters again. And you can see the winds. The winds are all east side loaded, and so is the rain. So it will be a lot of winds, will be a lot of thunderstorms, and it will be a lot of rainfall from Mexico. And as you look at the HMON, which is a longer outreach of a model, you can still see the same information as it goes, but as it gets into the Bay of Campeche, you can see how it's getting into a lot warmer waters. That's why it strengthens back up. You start getting your winds back on the east side. It starts getting some precipitation around the storm again. And it starts forming all over again. Just like I showed you those temperatures yesterday, as soon as we get into June 1st, that these temperatures are going to start spiking higher and higher. And you can see how the temperatures grew. This is us around the 20th, and it's already starting to get into the high 80s, even into the low 90s. And as we go another day or two, that's all we can see is up till today. You can see how the high 80s and 90s are starting to reach more and more northern, as well as the Western Caribbean and getting over here by southern Florida as well. This is all high 80s, and this red, especially the dark red, and these spots are brown, is getting to extreme high 80s and 90 degrees. And we do have this dust still moving through, but as you check with the update from NASA satellite, that after this dust pushes through, that's why all these tracks show that western track in the Bay of Campeche all the way up to the 31st, because it gets pushed by this dust, and this dust is a high pressure. But after it pushes this moisture to the west of the Bay of Campeche, the high dust will be gone. We still got this big plume of thunderstorms and precipitation coming through the Caribbean, and it still will get its rotation back, and it will head north. And look how far north all of that goes. So according to NASA satellite, this storm could head towards the Panhandle of Florida, this being your system with all the precipitation, and it's still getting fed. There is some more dust coming off of the coast of Africa, but it's a little too late. It will stop anything from coming next, but it's not stopping this. Because you can see a little better here how much it actually clears up. As the dust comes through, we go all the way to the 30th and the 31st. That's when it does that last bit of suppression. The dust clears out. There's no more dust in the way. It don't start maybe coming a little bit to the Eastern Caribbean to the 3rd. And by then, we're going to be dealing with this system over here. But if you take a great look all the way from the basin, you can see how all this precipitation gets shoved in there with this cyclone, that we do have another dust plume coming off around the 2nd. It's not a big plume, but it's enough to where it will keep more dust and less tropical activity for a little bit after this. But once again, it brings all that precipitation right north towards the southeast of the U.S. And you can see here on your potential velocity anomaly that shows your sinking air or rising air, that it is all starting to group back up together again. There won't be no sinking air once we go into the 31st and head into the 1st all the way to the 6th. So there is going to be a lot of rising air in the time period that we're going to have this cyclone, guys, with temperatures warming up. There's a lot of bad potentials that this cyclone can take advantage of. And you can even see the update with the Euro, that all that sinking air it showed before has disappeared, at least to maybe the middle to the end of June. Now, if you've never been here before, West Coast is 120, East Coast is 60, and 0 is from Africa, our main development region, our MDR. So we have a lot of rising air all the way from the 31st all the way to the 15th of June before we get this dust moving through again. So we do have a lot of opportunity for this cyclone to strengthen up. And when you check the probabilities of just a tropical depression with the Euro, you can see within 5 days, it will start moving its way into the Bay of Campeche. And after it keeps on going, it starts bringing the energy to the east. So all this right here is a good region by June 5th, according to the Euro. And all of the energy still heads to the east-northeast. This is the most likely outcome according to the Euro. The GFS information shows it will be a little bit more southern. Either way it goes, it will be a eastern loaded storm, and it will impact Florida and Bahamas. At the same time, you can see by then we will have another piece of energy that will be moving into the Central American gyre. Now, hopefully this will get suppressed by the dust that is going to be moving in, but the same motion, this is going to move northward eventually as well. And your update on the cold front, your Arctic oscillation, just lets you know if you want to warm up or some cooler air coming down, so we get our cold fronts. The Euro confirming right around the end of the month, the 29th, all the way to the 1st being its furthest, that we're still getting this cold front, and then it's still going to start raising back up from the 5th to the 6th. So it's not going to be a high ridge where it's raising up extremely fast, so it will linger around. And that would agree with the GFS, where it just keeps it right on the edge of Florida and not doing a high ridge where it's going straight up Florida. It will be suppressed a little bit longer. And you can see also with the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, which lets you know if you're going to a high ridge or deep trough, that trough will be lingering around all the way to the 5th and 6th. GFS also agrees. When you look at your AO, your Arctic Oscillation, that we have this cold front coming down. This will keep this at bay, literally. And then it will linger around. It won't do a sharp leave like it showed yesterday. The update shows that it will do a little bit better. And that's because we have that upper level low that's still pulling that cold air down. And right here in this period is right when it's going to be passing by Florida and the Bahamas. So far, instead of leaving where it's doing that high ridge, according to Euro and according to GFS, it will be lingering around where it's still suppressing it a little bit as it goes to the east-northeast. So I think Euro will catch up to what the Canadian model and what GFS is seeing, that it will be suppressed a little bit longer to the south before it makes that northward push. And the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, according to GFS, agrees that it will be that good trough all the way from the 29th to the 31st and the 1st, and it will be another little quick trough as it passes by on the way out. I'll show you with the humidity. And you can see that here. As you go towards the 1st, you have all this cold air coming down, and it's keeping this suppressed to the east-southeast. Then as it pushes away, you still have this upper level low that's still pulling this cold air down just a little bit more, not as strong as a long time ago. But as you go into the 3rd, instead of this taking this high northward push, you have this little bump that you saw in the AO. And this is what that little bump is, where it's pushing it a little bit further and it won't be able to go up. There's your little bump that I just showed you. So it keeps it a little more suppressed to the south instead of going up to the north. Now, if it didn't have that bump, it will start heading north at this point. But with that bump that it helps right there, it keeps it to the south. So that little bump plays a big part. But at the same time, it will be a lot of impacts on Bahamas, whichever way we look at it, as it goes away. And the reason why you don't see any hurricane potential because all this wind shear. By the time it gets into the Western Caribbean, it has all this shear going against it, keeping it a very weak system. It gets down to a 998, a 997 as it passes by the Bahamas. This would make it a tropical storm. It would not make it a hurricane. But you can see at the same time, it's getting a lot of shear. And this shear is just too strong, too early for this system to try and do something. Now, later on in the season, this shear does weaken down and actually does almost leave. But this early in the season, this shear is way too strong. There's no way this will become a hurricane. I saw people ask, what's the options of it? With this shear, no matter which track it takes, if it even takes that northern push, it would be something weak because the shear is going to be there regardless. So either way this storm takes it, it will be a weak system on the U.S. So far what we're talking about as far as impacts, it does bring a lot of rainfall towards southern Mexico and a Yucatan. It brings a lot of heavy rainfall, guys. This is according to the Euro. Now, the GFS takes it a little bit further to the east, where you're still getting a lot of rainfall, but it's not affecting places like Acapulco as bad as the Euro shows. At the same time, you can see it's going over the Western Caribbean, bringing a potential for 9 inches of rainfall for y'all. A lot of rainfall over Cuba, but being east side loaded is going to be very heavy rainfall for almost all of the Bahamas. So just be aware. Even though the Euro shows something a little more western, Most of the models are starting to agree with this information of that little bump of cold air from this upper level low, that this will stay weak. And the upper level low is a little trough, and it will create that shear, keeping the storm weak, but bringing a lot of rainfall. But either way you take it, whether you look at the GFS, when you look at your wind accumulation, your wind gusts, you can see the highest you get is maybe in the high 40 miles per hour wind gusts, whether you go with GFS or Euro. Euro takes it to where you could get over 60 for a short period of time. But everybody else is going to be in the low wind gusts after that, whether it's GFS or Euro. Now, taking the eastern track, it will affect the Bahamas once again. Western Caribbean, you could be getting over 30 miles per hour wind gusts, speeding up as it goes over Cuba. But once again, Bahamas, not only the heavy rainfall, you'll be getting a lot of wind gusts coming your way. So just beware, you need to prepare. You have a lot of rainfall coming. You have a lot of winds coming with that, no matter which way this goes, because this storm is east side loaded. If it goes further to the north, you're still going to feel this. It just won't stretch as far east in the Bahamas. It'll be western Bahamas. Either way, you're getting these impacts. Please share this amongst all the islands in the Bahamas. Let them know that something is coming. Thank you. And I will keep you updated. You know I will. So not only all the wind storms, a lot of wind damage. We had 67 reports of wind damage, and it was a lot of it. Now, we had 3 tornadoes that actually formed up out of all them tornadoes all night long. We had 1 in Illinois, 1 in Indiana, and 1 right here in North Carolina. But as we take a look at it, the 1 in Illinois was just west of Rockford, so it didn't hit no main area, but it did go around a lot of houses. So that one was close too, it was around a lot of farmland. And the 1 in Indiana was a little west of Crawfordsville, right above Waynestown. So just be aware, that was right next to the interstate. That one really could have done some damage on people traveling. But once again, it was farmland once again. But most of these were really close to cities. And the 1 in North Carolina was just north of Statesville. So these were the 3 confirmed tornadoes that y'all did get. So far, none of them didn't hit no major cities. So here's the severe weather aspect of the forecast. Today you will have thunderstorms in all of this green area. You do have a chance for tornadoes today. You have the 2% chance in the green, the 5% in the brown. And I'm showing this will pick up as it goes later in the evening. It'll be more southern, where Virginia and Maryland will get into play more later in the evening. You also have a threat for winds and a threat for hail today. Before your tornado threat for today, here's your cities and states. Your 5% being Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Raleigh, North Carolina, and Durham, North Carolina, as well as your 2% all the way from Newark, New Jersey, Norfolk, Virginia, Jersey City, New Jersey, Chesapeake, Virginia, and Newport News, Virginia. And for tomorrow, you will have thunderstorms in all of this green area. But like I said, there's no tornado threat out of any of this for tomorrow, for Saturday. You do have a chance for wind, even significant wind right here in this black for South Dakota, northern Nebraska, and there is a chance for hail, but no tornado threat for Saturday. For Sunday, you will still have thunderstorms in all of this area, but you do have a severe weather threat for Sunday. You have a 5% in the brown, 15% in the yellow, a big 30% in the red, and a significant severe in this black. So I will make a video, of course, Sunday morning on this to update you with the latest information. But here's your cities and states at threat for Sunday's severe weather. So if you want to see if your city's at threat, please press pause and take a look at these cities. And the threat has increased for Monday as well. You have the big 15% area and a big 30% area for severe weather for Monday. So once again, here's your cities and states at risk. Please press pause. This will update. So I will keep you updated every single day on this, guys. And there's no tornado threat tomorrow, so I will be taking my Sabbath. And you can see as you go all morning long, you have this big nasty line of thunderstorms that's moving through. But really until 10 a.m. is when it starts getting really bad on these cells. And you can see these cells down here that's getting in purple is getting a lot of precipitation. And that's when it starts getting a little bit of shear on that cell. As you go from 9 to 10, then it grows a little bit chance of shear to spin up a tornado to help with the rotation. As it moves along to 11, 12, and then it dissipates a little bit more. But it goes all the way and stays strong into Virginia by 1 p.m. moves over towards southern Maryland, weakens down, and goes into the ocean. But that's why y'all still in that tornado watch now. But as you keep on going, also these frontline storms keep on moving, and they strengthen again for northern Virginia, going into Maryland as you go from 11 o'clock, and it starts moving into Pennsylvania by 12 o'clock. And you can see it is getting a little bit more shear as it goes into the afternoon. So it stays a little weak, but then it grows stronger and stronger in the shear. So that is a threat for a chance for a tornado for Pennsylvania as well. And as you keep following that cell through, you see it keeps moving through eastern Pennsylvania. So it's a very nasty line right there. And as it continues moves to the east and north of Pennsylvania, that you still have chances for a tornado to spin up out of these cells. Now that's when it kind of dies off on these cells that moves across, and then it kind of straightens up on the winds on the shear. You're still getting a lot of winds in there, and that could be a sleeper cell in there somewhere, so just be aware. But now you're getting some shear on another cell that's coming through Virginia as you go through 4 p.m. And that's coming from North Carolina into Virginia, and it starts picking up on a shear on that one as well. And it actually strengthens up to your best chance to get rotation on a sheared cell all afternoon, while these cells starts popping up in front of this line by 5 p.m. So you do have these cells popping through. They are getting some shear on them. So you do need to worry about tornadoes once again all evening today, just like yesterday. Now, even though it don't exactly play out like this when it does come, but it gets real close. So saying that this is not how it's going to play out is a total lie, because so many times I found this to be correct. Because when you look at your helicity tracks, which is your wind direction change with height, which is exactly what a tornado is, you can see starting around 7 o'clock this morning, you have chances for North Carolina. But as these cells move into Virginia, they start strengthening up to chances for long-lived cells going all through Virginia. Also northern Virginia going into Maryland, especially into noon. Then it stretches all the way towards Maryland, Delaware, and Jersey as you keep going towards 4 o'clock. Weakens down after that, but then it starts again as you go from North Carolina into Virginia. So those cells are very strong cells that are passing through all the way until 11 o'clock tonight. Now remember, every month we still going out feeding the poor, feeding the hungry people, passing out Bibles as well, and we're doing great this month already. We're already up a little above 1,500. We're at 1,550. We was at 15 a while back, and the cotton slowed down, which is just fine because we're already at 3 times the amount that we had for last month. It's going to be a big blessing for a lot of people. But remember, if you do want to support this, all the links are in the description to contact me. If it's for food, make sure you put that donation for food. That way it can go into the food account. It has its own account now. And if it's for me, if you want to support me, my links are there as well. Or you can just hit the thanks right below the video. You can see that next to the like. But you can also hit the join button. It's $4.99 a month. That supports the live streams that will be coming real often, real soon. I also waited for the 6Zs. I'll give you as much information as I can before Sabbath starts. I will see y'all again Sunday morning. And it still shows after the Bay of Campeche, it will move into the Western Caribbean by the time it gets to the 3rd. But it's showing something a little different this morning. Now it's showing that that upper level low will be a little further to the west. And that would put this on a higher ridge and pull it a little bit tighter into southern Florida. Now it won't be a lot of the impacts, because this is still going to be east side loaded Florida. You could get some winds on a wraparound, maybe even some rain. But it's still, no matter what, this is really going to affect the Bahamas. And it does a little touch and go right along the east coast, right around the 5th. And that strengthens back up towards a hurricane. Now I'll put this on the reflectivity so y'all can see the thunderstorms that will be moving to today. It will be the 2 rounds of them. One now, and then one will come back later. So God bless you all. May you have a very blessed day today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for visiting my channel today. I will keep you updated. Make sure you subscribe to keep the latest updates, as well as severe weather. Because when I do my live streams, I don't care if it's just a wind threat. Because nothing is too small for me. I do care about you. I don't care about your money. Matter of fact, you always see where your money goes on my channel. I always have it on videos, and I never lie. When I say it goes towards helping others, that's where it goes. So thank you again for visiting my channel. Consider subscribing. You won't regret it. We have the best community you've ever talked to. A word from Matthew. Matthew 7. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye? And behold, a beam is in thine own eye. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down, and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have we cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and that wind blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Jesus had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine. For he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Amen. In all glory, all power does go to Yahweh, God of Jacob, our Father. And he'll keep you safe. Know this in your heart. Like he says before, when you pray on something and ask, believe you have received it, and you will receive it. Just believe. It's that easy. Amen. Hallelujah, guys. Have a very wonderful weekend. Thank you again.